Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody in YouTube land. This is Jamal. Hey, um, so I was having a discussion yesterday, and the subject matter that kind of came up was education, or I'll call it programming. And what most people don't realize is their problem or your problem is your programming. And what do I mean by your problem is your programming? I was raised by a computer programmer. That's what my dad did after he came out of the Navy. He went to computer school, accomplished a lot of different things when it comes to computers. And so um, there's a term that they use called garbage in, garbage out. So whatever you put into a program or into a computer is the only thing that you could get out of it. So basically, the information that you've been given through our so called educational system is what you make your decisions based off of. And what most people don't realize is that they're making their decisions based off of incomplete, erroneous, and sometimes just straight out wrong lies that you've been taught. And so when you look at your life, you start to realize you're looking and you're not getting the results that you believe you ought to have, but you're making your decisions based upon the information that you have at that time. What you don't realize is incomplete or an erroneous or just, a straight out lie. So, one of the things that we don't take the time to think about is number one, why was the educational system created? Why was forced schooling created? Because this is something that just started in the early 1900s. Before then, you didn't have forced schooling. You had places where people would learn, and it was, might as well say, private schooling. You had apprenticeship programs. This country, before so-called forced schooling, had a very high literacy rate compared to other countries. So why is it that after um, the public school system, or I call it, like I said, the forced schooling system came about, that the literacy rate started to go down? And if you don't believe me, I'm a product of public, Pittsburgh public schools. And then, nothing but the grace of God, I had the opportunity to go away to an all male Catholic boarding school run by Benedictine monks that set on the East Coast. It actually literally set on waterfront property. Okay. So, in the Pittsburgh public schools, I was a very high achieving student. But once I got to private school, got to boarding school, I realized that there was a lot of basic things that I was never taught. And so I was an average slash below average student playing catch up for 4 years when I was at this boarding school. And if you want to look it up, the name of the boarding school is called Portsmouth Abbey. Portsmouth Abbey, and it sits right outside of Newport, Rhode Island. Um, Check it out. So, um, it wasn't until my mid 20s that I read a book that was called The Underground History of American Education, and it was written by an author by the name of John Taylor Gatto. Now, John Taylor Gatto was a former New York City and also New York State Teacher of the Year. And he actually, I think he started, if I'm remembering correctly, he started his teaching career in Manhattan, teaching, you know, children who lived in Manhattan, and then basically ended his career teaching children, I believe, in Harlem and certain other underperforming areas. And what I found very interesting was he was able to verbalize what my actual experience was between public and private schooling, because there's a huge difference, folks. There's a huge difference. And I'm going to try to keep this kind of short. But you come to realize, and he was able to take underperforming students and get them to perform. And the gist of his book, and he's got a series of books. I really encourage you, if you're really about educating your children, or if you have small children, and you really want to understand what's going on, he's an expert. He's an expert. But he was able to get underperforming students to perform. And he had such a hard time dealing with the administration. But getting back to this information, so we're making our decisions based upon the information that has been put into us at a particular time. And there's just so much wrong and erroneous and incomplete information that we've been taught. And I'm going to give you a couple examples of what I'm talking about. And everybody already knows now, you know, Christopher Columbus discovered America. Well, guess what? How are you going to discover something when people were already here? Another example of a saying that's stated is you shouldn't go into business with friends and family. Well, my question is, why would you want to enrich a stranger? And what is it that the wealthy do? The wealthy actually go into business with friends and family. So that's who you should be going into business with. But they'll try to tell you that, you know, relationships and sticky and all this other sort of stuff, which is possible. But still, why would you want to enrich a stranger? How can you trust a stranger and not trust someone that you know? There's just a lot of stuff, folks. And if you really take the time, if you're not getting the results that you're looking or you feel like you deserve, then you really have to start looking at what it is that you're doing. The last example I'm going to give you is, according to, you know, statistics by the government, you know, out of every 100 people, only 5 people out of 100 will be able to retire independently with no assistance whatsoever from the state or from family members. Now let's think about this, folks. And I'm going to just round the number off to say there's 300 million people in this country. So 300 million people in this country, 5% of 300 million is 15 million people. 15 million people, that leaves 285 million people that are not going to be able to make it. Now, if you were taking a test in a class and 95% of the class failed and only 5% got good grades or, you know, passed the test, is it the student's fault? Is it the test? Is it the teacher's fault? In my opinion, it's obviously that the teacher did not explain or communicate well enough that to the students what information was going to be on the test. And so when you think about that financially, most people think that it's their own fault. Most people think that, you know, they think they know they understand what's going on and they're making these decisions, but obviously they're not, because at 285 million people, that includes doctors, lawyers, PhDs, people with master's degrees and all that other sort of stuff, right? That are in that 285 million. But also on the flip side, in the 15 million, which is that represents that 5%, there are also doctors, lawyers, PhDs, folks with master degrees. And see, what you have to understand is that education is subject specific. So if you're not taking the time to really study about money, how money works, the monetary systems, credit, how to invest. In my opinion, you spend way too much time trying to, work and acquire this money that you've got to take a little bit of time in order to make sure that you're not paying more for everything that you're buying. And then also, when you go to invest, that your money is working as hard for you as you work for it, if not harder. So, folks, rarely do we get the opportunity to really sit down, meditate, and really not just ask a question, but to also research and seek out the answer as to why it is that we're not where we believe we ought to be at whatever snapshot in our lives. And I would just encourage you, number one, pick up that book, The Underground History of American Education, to really understand that the system is doing what it was designed to do. And really, it came out of the fact that they needed workers for the Industrial Revolution. So that's why they came up with this public school system, or this forced schooling system. I would also encourage you to read, start off with maybe a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Um, there are some more advanced books that I would also suggest. Also, another one you really want to get into called The Conspiracy of Credit by Corey P. Smith. Excellent book. Gets to teach you or show you that credit is a system, and really everything is some sort of system. And if you really want to know how to navigate that system, guess what? You got to take the time to find out what that system is and how that system works. Because once you understand how it works, then you'll be able to navigate the system successfully. But that's going to take time, folks. And I'm going to just kind of leave that there because we're already at about 12 minutes. But the other thing that I'm going to hit home with is, guess what? If you find a mentor doing the thing that it is that you want to do, they can help to shorten that time frame for your learning curve when it comes to these different areas. So, again, your problem is not really you. Your problem is your programming. What you've taken in, the information that you've been taught up to this point. But guess what, folks? You can change the programming. Please like, share, subscribe, do all that YouTube-y stuff. And follow me on my Instagram page, Credit Maximization, and then also the other one, Max Success number 4 Life. Max Success for Life. Max Success number 4 Life. And y'all have a wonderful, blessed, and prosperous day. Peace.